going. My brother-in-law's father-in-law, Frankie Rappa from Brooklyn, who's now passed away, taught me how to do these olives, and they're just fantastic. So I try and do them every year so that when I go to my brother-in-law's house, we can have some of Frankie's olives. And you know what? I'm eating those olives, and in my mind, Frankie's there at the table with me. So Frankie had a great accent, and I imitate him, not with any, not making fun of him at all. It's just when I imitate him, I again seem to be able to get closer to hearing his actual voice. So I had him on the phone, and I said, Frank, I want to do the olives. How do I do it? He said, well, you got to take a bowl and put water, and then you put an egg in the water, and you put a salt. How much salt, Frank? You got to put enough. How much is enough? Oh, you know when you have enough, you got enough. I go, but Frank, how will I know when there's enough? You know when there's enough. How do I know? He said, you put a salt in the water, and you mix that water around with the salt. I said, okay, how much salt do you put in the water? You put enough. How do you know when there's enough? He said, you got to put an egg. I said, put an egg? What does an egg have to do with the olives? He said, you put an egg in the water, you put a salt in the water, you keep adding the salt, the egg is going to float. When the egg afloat, you got enough of salt. Okay, so I go back and forth. I'm measuring the water, I'm measuring the salt to get the approximate amount of salt so I'd have a recipe. But sure enough, when you're doing this, you keep adding salt. I need a little bit more. And eventually, all of a sudden, that egg goes from the bottom of the bowl and it floats to the surface. And that's when you know you have enough salt in the water. So that was very easy because I could never forget that because I always tell that story. So I put the egg in the water and I put a salt, and I knew I had enough of salt when the egg afloat. So now that egg came to the surface. That's telling me I have enough salt in that water. Then we would take the olives. Just clean up my mess because I'm splashing water all around. And give Arnold's polenta a nice stir here. Oh, this is looking, look at how creamy and wonderful that's coming. And I'm really kind of not paying as close attention as I should to this polenta. We should really be stirring this nonstop, but I'm trying to go back and forth. So Frank told me also that you take the olives and with a cleaver or something hard, you just crack the olive and you whack it until it cracks. Then you put all of these olives into the salted water after they're cracked, and you let them sit for 30 to 60 days. See, all of this stuff you do, you know when it's done. Now, the way we tell when these olives are done is when they're cracked open, you can see they're somewhat dark inside. They will get more uniform in color, and if you taste this olive now, your face will turn inside out. It'll be that bitter and that tart. By little, when you're done salting them and letting them sit, the olives will get nice and mellow. Then you can take the olives in this stage with the salted water, drain them, and then put them in another jar and put them with olive oil and herbs. And you'll have just a wonderful, wonderful fresh olive. We do the hot peppers, soaking them in vinegar. Just put them in whole, big pail, soak in vinegar, a couple weeks, let them sit, take them out, clean all the seeds out, put them in a jar with oil, wonderful hot peppers all year. Let's take a look at my bread, my peppers. Peppers need another minute. Bread's just about, actually I'm going to take that bread out. Move Frankie's olive water here, move the olives here. Want to get a bowl for Arnold's polenta. At the end of the polenta, we stir in a little bit of grated cheese. That's going to make it nice and creamy. Little pepper. Pinch of salt. Not too much salt because the cheese has salt in it. Can always add more, you can't take it out. When I made this polenta and Joey came to my house, it was the same thing. I could see in his eyes that he was going back 20 years to when Arnold was around. And he looked at me, he said, you know what? He said, you got it, you nailed it. And again, I said, yeah, it's from hanging around Arnold, watching him cook. You pick up his style. I got to taste this because then I'll see Arnold's face in my mind. The cheese, the sausage flavor, the kale, simply incredible. So we made some real simple stuff here. Let me get my peppers out of the oven. You can see these peppers are starting to kind of wrinkle up a little bit, which is telling me they're getting cooked. I've got Uncle Mickey's wonderful banana bread. I've got wonderful hot peppers that actually I had for the first time with a friend of mine, Rocco, who's still alive. Everybody was dead today. Which I just love these hot. I love them warm. I love them cold. Arnold's wonderful polenta with the sausage and the kale. And we talked about just some of the family favorites that, that Italian people do year in and year out. We do the tomatoes, we do peppers, we do olives, we make wine, we make limoncello. You know, it's just an ongoing process that we do everything. One more thing I want to talk to you about. And this has nothing to do with being Italian, except that Italians love food, and this happens to be a food that I love. Pomegranates. We're seeing pomegranates now for longer seasons. You cut them open, they're like little red jewels inside, a wonderful antioxidant provider, and my kids would jump through a hoop for a pomegranate. So this can be a meal in itself, just cutting it up. So here's our family favorites. I'm David Martone, Executive Chef at Classic Thyme Cooking School in Westfield. Happy cooking.